Good morning, everyone, and welcome to AM Weather. I'm Joan Von Ahn.
And a good Friday morning, everybody. I'm Carl Weiss. Finally, some good news for rain-soaked portions of New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware as the atmosphere is starting a slow drying process. We'll show you how this is unfolding by first of all going to our U.S. sequence of pictures, and we start them at 6 o'clock Thursday morning Eastern Daylight Time. A more westerly wind flow over the mid-Atlantic states is bringing in drier air and sweeping the showers and thunderstorms eastward out to sea. Thursday did bring more heavy rains and floodings into the south and east. Many streams and roads were flooded through Cumberland County in New Jersey, as well as northern Delaware. An inch and a half of rain caused more flooding in southern Jackson County in West Virginia. Huntington, West Virginia had 2 3/4 inches of rain in a very short time. Millville, New Jersey had about 1 1/10 of rain. Roanoke, Virginia, 2 1/10 inches. And New Bern, North Carolina, 1.4 inches of rain. Farther south, the remnants of Allison still producing heavy rains and flooding over portions of Louisiana. Some rivers were as much as 8 feet above flood stage yesterday. At Shreveport, 1 1/4 inches of rain fell in just 25 minutes, and flooding also occurred over portions of Alabama and Georgia. A tornado touched down north of Junction City, Arkansas. This damaged some power lines and trees. And early on this Friday, strong thunderstorms are forming along a frontal system moving across the northern and central Great Plains. But the western 2/3 of the nation is dominated by high pressure and mostly clear skies. Now next we have a picture taken over the United States, but this is a somewhat different infrared picture than we normally show you. It was taken about the time of maximum temperatures across the west on Thursday, and the darker the shade, the hotter the temperatures. Record highs were set at Grand Junction, Colorado at 104. This is the 3rd day in a row they've had a record high temperature. Tucson hit 109. That's the 7th record in the last 8 days. Las Vegas, 115. Sacramento, California, 105. The high temperature in the state of Utah was 112. In Arizona, 120. And the nation's high was 126 at Death Valley, California. Temperatures hit triple digits as far to the east as Wisconsin, where La Crosse had an even 100. Well, next we have our evening radar pictures, and we'll put those in motion for you. And focus your attention over the south and east, where we see the area of showers and thunderstorms shrinking with time as the nighttime hours wear on. Some pretty good-sized thunderstorms still over portions of North Carolina and out over the Gulf Stream. Tops as high as 46,000 feet. In fact, that's where our local radar stop will be this morning, Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. And the big thunderstorms continue out over the open waters of the Gulf Stream, and a few more over Pamlico Sound and just to the south of Norfolk. All of these are moving off to the east. Back to the big picture we go, and some showers off the northeast coast, tops as high as 25,000 feet east of Atlantic City. Over the Florida Straits, more thunderstorms, tops there as high as 43,000 feet, and up to 39,000 feet near Apalachicola. These are moving off to the northeast. Popcorn variety thunderstorms over the southeast and Tennessee Valley near Nashville. Thunderstorm tops to 43,000 feet. And up over the Plain States with that frontal zone, thunderstorm tops as high as 52,000 feet. These are dropping to the southeast. Joan?
Carl has just filled us in on all the details of the past weather. Let's take a look at this morning's current weather, then the high and low temperature forecast for today and tonight. We'll start out with this morning's current map, and we find temperatures early today mostly in the 60s and 70s, although some 50s have been reported through the upper Mississippi Valley and the Great Lakes, 40s and 50s from the northwest into the northern and central Rockies, but 80s through the southwest along the Gulf Coast and down into Florida. A lot of dense fog has formed this morning in the warm and humid air throughout the eastern third of the country. Visibility is down to 1/16 of a mile at Andrews Air Force Base, 0 at Aberdeen, Maryland and Baltimore, Maryland, 3/4 of a mile at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and 1/4 of a mile at Lewisburg, West Virginia. Still some scattered showers and thunderstorms this morning in that moist air from New England along the Atlantic coast and down to the Gulf Coast, and some thunderstorms also with the front across the Plain States. But out in the west, high pressure dominates, weather mostly fair, although dense fog has formed along much of the northern and central California coast. Visibility is down to 1/2 mile at Fort Ord, Santa Barbara, and Valdosta. The temperature extremes at 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time ranged from 43 degrees at McCall, Idaho to 94 degrees at Phoenix, Arizona. Let's take a look now at the high temperatures forecast for this afternoon. We find 90s will stretch from western Maryland through the Carolinas and down into central Florida, but 80s for southern Florida and much of the rest of the east, 70s across the Great Lakes, 90s from the Midwest through the central and southern plains, the northern Rockies, and into the interior portions of California. 60s and 70s along the Pacific coast, with 80s in the interior portions of the west. 100s through the Intermountain region, and more than 110 degrees from interior California across southern Nevada and into western Arizona. Overnight lows will be in the 70s from the mid-Atlantic states down into the Gulf Coast and then back through the mid-Mississippi Valley, as well as across much of east and south Texas. 70s and 80s from interior California throughout the deserts of the southwest. Otherwise, 50s and 60s is overnight lows for most of the rest of the country, but some cooler 40s through central and western Oregon and through much of eastern upper Michigan northward into Ontario. Carl?
Next, we'll wrap up this holiday week by looking at the series of forecast maps for this upcoming weekend, and we'll start it off with the map for this Friday evening. We find, once again, showers and thunderstorms along the mid-Atlantic coast, a good chance of them there, as well as over southern Florida and portions of Louisiana and southeastern Texas. But we start to see the effects of the drier air mixing in with the precipitation over the eastern part of the United States. Frontal zone touching off showers and thunderstorms, a pretty good chance over northern and central New England, more widely scattered back into the mid-Mississippi Valley. Showers and thunderstorms are also expected over the northern plains and the hit-or-miss type over the southwest. Our map for Saturday morning will show high pressure settling in over the Great Lakes, pushing the frontal zone eastward. Showers and thunderstorms along the front from the Delmarva and then northeastward, just brushing Cape Cod and Nova Scotia. More showers and thunderstorms widely scattered across central and south Florida, much of northern Texas, and a rather complex area of low pressure and a frontal zone bringing widely scattered showers and thunderstorms to the upper Mississippi Valley. Also, the rumble of thunder not out of the question along the northwest coast. Then our map for Sunday morning will have low pressure moving into the southern Great Lakes, a good chance of showers and thunderstorms over central sections, more widely scattered into eastern Canada. High pressure over central Pennsylvania. Looks like a great day on tap for the northeast, mid-Atlantic states. We're back in the humid air, showers and thunderstorms from the western Carolinas westward into Texas. The far northern plains, southwest, and just brushing the Washington coast with the threat of a few showers and thunderstorms as well. And finally, our map for Monday morning will show showers moving into the northwest once again, as far east as northwestern Montana. Showers and thunderstorms for the upper Midwest and northern plain states, the southern Rocky Mountains, and over the southeastern Great Lakes. Showers and thunderstorms also up and down much of the Atlantic coast and along the Gulf coastal states into central Texas. Joan?
Well, it's time to move into the aviation segment of our program. We'll start out with this morning's map and take a look at the forecast for this evening and tomorrow morning. At this time, although a lot of dense fog is forming throughout the east, we have no reports of any flight delays at any major airports across the nation. Let's take a look now at the details of this morning's map, and we find a mix of marginal VFR and IFR conditions throughout much of the east due to fog, showers, and thunderstorms. These conditions extend down into the lower Mississippi Valley and northeast Texas. Low conditions and fog also cover much of the west coast. A look at this morning's turbulence is all due to thunderstorms up to 50,000 feet in the plains, 40,000 feet along the Atlantic coast, and up to 45,000 feet from the Tennessee Valley down to the Gulf Coast. Now, by this evening, we expect low conditions from the Maritimes into northern New England, area of marginal VFR weather just ahead of the cold front from south central New York into western Pennsylvania. Low conditions ahead of a trough of low pressure through the mid-Atlantic coastal states. Some low conditions also from southwest Arkansas across northern Louisiana into northeast Texas, and low conditions also from southern British Columbia into western Washington. A look at this evening's turbulence. We find thermals to 14,000 feet in the southwest, moderate below 8,000 feet with the cold front across the St. Lawrence River Valley, thunderstorms to 45,000 feet across the northeast, to 50,000 feet along the mid-Atlantic coast, and to 55,000 feet through the lower Mississippi Valley and down into northeast Texas. By early tomorrow morning, we find marginal VFR weather from the Maritimes into northern New Jersey. Low conditions also through the mid-Atlantic coastal states, the lower Mississippi Valley. Low conditions through the upper Mississippi Valley and the eastern sections of the Dakotas. VFR weather across the Rockies and the Intermountain region, but low conditions once again along much of the California and southwest Oregon coast. A look at the turbulence for tomorrow morning. Moderate below 8,000 feet with the cold front along the New England and mid-Atlantic coast, and moderate below 40,000 feet due to showers and thunderstorms through the north central part of the country. It's time for winds aloft. soft, and Carl has them starting at 2,000 feet above ground level.
Winds are turning more west and northwest through the northeast and upper Ohio Valley, but still southwesterly, bringing in warm and humid air across the southeast. High pressure found from the western Great Lakes into the southern plains. Southerly winds right around 25 knots over the central high plains, and northerly winds 25 knots or so in the southwest. On up to 10,000 feet, high pressure once again found over the plains and into the southwest. Light and variable winds over the plateau, a sharp low pressure trough over the lower Mississippi Valley. Strong westerly winds over northern New England, speeds there right around 25 knots. Up at 18,000 feet, the winds pick up over the northern tier of states, 25 to 50 knots from Washington to Maine. Western Oregon, strongest winds 50 to 100 knots, and easterly winds of 25 knots or so over extreme southern Arizona. And finally, up at 39,000 feet, we find the jet stream moving eastward across the northwest Great Lakes and into the St. Lawrence River Valley. Couple spots along the jet, especially over the northern plains and western parts of Oregon and southern Washington, two areas with wind speeds of 50 to 100 knots. And we have winds of 25 to 50 knots bending around the high-pressure ridge over the Rockies and also covering much of southern Florida. Coming up next is Weather Watch. For the full story, let's get back over to Joan.
We'll begin Weather Watch early this Friday morning up in the northeastern part of the country, where lake boating advisories are up in New Hampshire and in Maine for all but the north. Winds are west to southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. A dense fog advisory is up this morning for the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. There is a slight risk of severe thunderstorms both today and tonight throughout the northeast and through parts of the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Thunderstorms may approach severe limits both today and tonight through central and southern Arizona. In northern California, a dense fog advisory is in effect along the coast from Del Norte southward through Humboldt and Mendocino counties. Dense fog advisories are also up for the San Francisco Bay region near the ocean and along the central coast north of Big Sur and near Monterey Bay. Well, that takes care of Weather Watch for today, and if you're going to be traveling across the country on vacation this summer, you don't have to miss AM weather. Most public television stations across the country broadcast AM weather each weekday morning, and to find out which ones do and what time, you can send for one of our station listing brochures. Just send a stamped self-addressed envelope to AM Weather, Owings Mills, Maryland, 21117. That's all the time we have this Friday. Have a great weekend. Join us here again on Monday morning.
AM Weather is made possible by grants from the Federal Aviation Administration, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the AOPA Air Safety Foundation,